Alright, man. Shalom, man. Shalom. All praises be unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachakadash. Double honor unto the elder apostles and the elder bishops at Great Millstone who are well. And he taught us this truth, yeah. Shalom to all you sincere Akim, man. And pretty much, man, the title of this one is We're as good as our last move. Keep contending or keep fighting. One of them, man. See what, yeah, keep contending, man. Because pretty much, yeah, this thing, we're a part of this truth, this walk of faith. It's a fight, man. And along the way, many things are gonna happen whereby things are gonna happen, man. Things are gonna happen, and pretty much we gotta pray unto Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai to maintain the faith, bro. To maintain the faith. And the scriptures on that, that get into trials and tribulations and how men of the Lord dealt with various things that happen unto them, but pretty much the running theme here is that you put Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai first. You apply the scriptures, and the Lord works, man. The Lord works, and comes through for brothers. So what I'm gonna do here is, this is Matthew the 4th chapter. I'm not gonna make this too long. This is Matthew chapter 4, and I'll start from verse 1, and it's pretty much dealing with Yahweh Shai. When Yahweh Shai, he the Spirit led him into the wilderness to get tempted of Satan, right? So this is Matthew the 4th chapter, and it says, "Then was Yahweh Shai led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil." Okay, and that was the spiritual demon Shaitan. All right, it wasn't no like other principality or demon. It was Satan himself. All right, the top spirit on the left hand side, who Yahweh Shai has authority over, by the way. But yeah, that top demon on the left, Satan, Hashatan, the adversary himself. Okay, and it says, so he came to Yahweh Shai, and when he had, verse 2, when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was half afterward and hungered. All right, and when the tempter came to him, he said, "If thou be the Son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread." Okay, so the tempter actually came to let's see if we're back on, man. So like, I got a call there. Yeah, it seems to be cool, man. People just want to call you when thing, but whatever, man. Anyways, so this is verse 3, and when the tempter came to him, he said, "If thou be the Son of the Power, the Most High, command that these stones be made bread." So Satan, was playing on Yahweh Shai's current circumstances, man. And a part of the battle, because we're gonna get them scriptures dealing with contending for the faith here. A part of the battle is knowing the angle of the adversary. For example, you can take boxing, yeah. You got 12 rounds. The first round or two, people are trying to work out their opponent, just get a feel, for their opponent and things of that nature. But in a proper boxer would go in with a game plan. So they've studied their opponent's previous fights. So they know by like round 6 or round 5 or round 7, if they planning to go the distance, how that person gets when they're tired, their previous tactics with other people, and then they modify their game plan based upon that, so they know how to come to their opponent. So Satan did that to Yahweh Shai. But then Yahushua did that to Satan, okay, with the game plan that never fails, which is the scriptures, yeah. So Satan was like, ah, cool. I can see that he's fasted for 40 days. He's hungry. Let me come to him with food, you know. Because in boxing you got like people they'll consistently hit a particular area, because they're trying to wound you there and then make you weak in that position, and then come with an overhand right or whatever, man. But if they concentrate on one particular part, then you're done. So Satan was analyzing, man. Yeah, he's hungry, so let me come to him with food, because that's his weak point right now. All right, you know. So Yahushua answered, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, okay, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Father. So Yahushua was like, listen, man, I know your angle, man. And this is, what I was meditating on before I put the camera on. So I said, let's just speak on this, yeah, is that we're as good as our last move, We're as good as our last move, man. Yeah, you could have, you know, they have this saying over here in England, we got rappers that they'll talk about like stuff they've, like tracks they've made, albums, EPs, all of that. And they're talking about some stuff they did in 2005, 2010. And it's like, yeah, okay, what are you doing now? What are you doing now, man? Because you trying to ride off that rep from back then. Yeah, that's credibility. You got credibility in whatever arena you're coming from. But at the end of the day, what's up now, man? So we can't afford to rely on, oh, but last time that was cool. No, what's up now? Because remember, the scripture says Satan as a roaring lion, yeah? In fact, let's pull that, seeking whom he may devour. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and 8. And it says, be sober, be vigilant. All right. To be sober means to be sober minded. Okay. Not giving on to any other doctrine or philosophy, but being solely sober to this truth. Okay. Being awake. Be sober, not to be drunken. Be sober, be vigilant, be watchful, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So Satan's always looking to devour you, man. Satan's always looking for a particular event that that can happen. He can pounce on it, whilst you're weak. So it doesn't matter about the move you made 2 years ago or 5 moves prior. It matters about your next move. It matters about my next move, because all it takes is that next move to fuck up and Satan's in the door. That's why the scripture says it here. Be sober, be vigilant. Okay? As the elder apostles told us, man, keep your shit watertight. Right? Airtight, because any little crack, Satan's gonna get in there, man. And it says, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about. And this is why we have to constantly examine ourselves, man. There's no such thing as being too hard, or, within the realms of righteous examination. There's no such thing as being too hard or overly careful, because Satan's there. He's there, man. What did Satan say to the Most High when the Most High asked him, what have you been doing? In the book of Job, he said, I've been walking to and fro in the earth. All right. And to do what? To give people a nice time? No. Satan's whole office, his whole job, is to fuck shit up. Just putting it in plain layman terms, man. So Satan was up and down in the earth, putting demons on people. You put the pot securely on the stove, and all of a sudden it falls over. Whatever you try and do is just not working out. That's them demons. So Satan's up and down in the earth creating havoc, because that's his job. But then he's got a specific target that is at the top of the list, priority, yeah? And that is the elect of the nation of Israel, which we're hoping and praying to be a part of. So if we're hoping and praying to be a part of the elect, that's a big job. That's a big office, But guess what? Big office comes with big demons, man. This is why we got to constantly be on it, man. So be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. All right? So there you go, man. So let's go back to Matthew. What was that? Matthew, the 4th chapter. Matthew, hold on. Matthew 4 and verse, where we at? Verse 5. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple. So that shows you Satan had a level of power, man. You know, he took Yahushua up and, set him up on the top of the temple, man. And saith unto him, If thou be the Son of the Most High, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Verse 7, Yahushua said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power. So there you have it, man. You know, and that shows us what Satan knows the scriptures, man. You know, Satan knows the scriptures. And, you know, one thing that we have to pray against in the form of a demon is trying to make excuses for things with the Bible, man. You know what it says, yeah, but then that voice comes in your head, and then you try and manipulate the scriptures to fit some off shit. Because that's what Satan was doing. Best believe Satan knows the scriptures, man. Satan ain't no wet behind the ears, rookie when it comes to the scriptures. Satan knows the scriptures. But his whole angle is to try and twist it so that you like put it to the test, and that's against our belief system, man, because it really shows a lack of faith, right? If you're really real, God, do this, and the Lord winks at us. If you've ever done that, the Lord can wink at you in your ignorance, but when you know better, you shouldn't really be doing that, man. I shouldn't really be doing that. I remember when I was a child, man, I must have been about 7. You grew up in like a Christian, so-called Christian household and that, And one time I was in the living room. I was about 6 or 7, one of them. And I was looking out the window in the living room, yeah. And I believed in the Most High, you get taught Christian shit, whatever. From that stance, that angle, yeah. And I remember saying to myself, right, let me think of the most outrageous thing, and I want God to show it to me, kind of thing. So I said, in England we have something called black cabs, yeah. And black cabs, by the way, black cabs really, you can see them all around, but they tend to operate more in central, more busy areas. And that's I don't live in a central busy area, neither did I at the time. So I said, I want to see a black cab. So I said, okay, God, let the next car that comes down my road be a black cab. Like, it's the actual shape of the cab. In England, the black cab thing. But I said, in fact, I want this one to be pink. I don't know why the hell, 7-year-old mind, whatever. I just said, I want a black cab car, but I want it to be pink. And I want it to come down the road. And the next, the Most High is my witness, man. The next vehicle that drove down my road was a pink black cab. The shape of the black cab, but it was spray painted pink. And I said, wow, as a little child, man. Now I didn't know that, so I pray the Most High winked at that, but stuff like that. If your God do this, if your God do that, or you said this, so I'm gonna put it to the test. And nah, man. Because you could do, again, a demon could jump on you and do some dumb shit. All right, cool. I'm going to go to the next motorway, my nearest motorway, or my nearest street, busy road, and I'm going to jump in front of a car. But because you're the Most High, I believe you won't let me die. Yeah, man. one or two things are gonna happen, man. You're gonna end up severely, severely, what's the word? Life-changing injuries, as they say, or you're gonna end up dead. Oh my God, you said, oh what? No, don't tempt the Lord. So that's what Satan tried to do with Yahweh Shai. Right then, I've taken you up to the temple pinnacle. Jump, kill yourself. Because pretty much that's a kill yourself incentive. But let's see if the Most High, because he said he wouldn't. Nah, 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 nah. Don't do that, man. You know, but what did Yahweh Shai come back and say? Yahweh Shai said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power, man. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain and sheweth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. So Satan had that power to put up like the holograms of the future. You know, the Satan was showing Yahweh Shai, you know, London, you know, um, the busy streets of London, you know, uh, Mayfair, Oxford Street, you know, major train stations, you know, major high points, the Shard, all, London Bridge, all, New York, okay, Times Square, all these kingdoms that have come afterwards, yeah. I say these kingdoms, all these major cities, because you got the kingdoms, but then you got major cities all around the world. So like all these major cities, Satan actually showed Yahweh Shai a hologram of that, as if the Lord didn't already knew that that was going to come down the line. That just shows you how cheeky Satan is. But he showed Yahweh Shai all of that, in like a vision kind of thing. All right. And he said unto him, all these things, verse 9, will I give thee if thou will fall down and worship me. So it all goes down to worship, man. Where is good as our last move? All right. So you could say, well, what qualifies our last move? Our last move, it falls under two criterias. Was it in obedience to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai? All right. Is it an act of worship and submission unto the Lord? Okay, that kind of covers everything. All right. My last move with the Lord, whatever I just did with the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, would he be pleased with that? That's it. Because if our last move, if we know that it's not pleasing to the Lord, and he wouldn't be pleased with us making such a move in any arena, then it's like, well, that's your answer then. Don't do it. Or if you did, why did you do it? Why did I do it? Okay, So when Satan said to Yahweh Shai, if you fall down and worship me, basically sell out. So we go into these rappers, these celebrities, so-called celebs and stars of this world and things of that nature. People that sold out, yeah. We talk about deals, we get into it. We talk about Amalek, the music industry, the entertainment industry, Hollywood, Hollowwood, all of that, selling souls, blood covenants, sacrifices. Yeah. The scripture says there's no temptation that is, let me actually pull that. Let me see if I can actually find that. Because the first person to really get a deal put across that table was Yahweh Shai, but he rejected it. There is no temptation common to man. I want that in the Kings. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 13, and it says, there hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But the Most High is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Okay? So you're not gonna say, you talk to myself first and foremost, not gonna go through anything that is like unheard of. It may be uncomfortable to you, it may be uncomfortable to me, but basically we ain't the first person to deal with this. Brothers go through things, man. you know Boy, man, we all got stories, man. Brothers go through things, and you know, yeah. But at the end of the day, we have to remember we can't act like, oh, it's just me. No, no, no. You know, a lot of people have gone through this, man. You know, a lot of people have gone through these things. Yeah, it's what it is. You know, even people in the world. But guess what? The beauty of it on our end, Lord willing, we're those men. It says here, uh, uh, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape. You know, so wherever the Lord puts us through, it may seem like, you know, the walls are closing in. There's no way out. But you know, we serve a Lord that is a dramatic power, man. You know, the Lord likes the drama, you know, because at the end of the day, it's his movie, man. You know, um, the Lord didn't open, the Lord didn't open the sea, which is really the Gulf of Suez. Yeah, he didn't open that until the Egyptian army was on our back, man. You know, and it's not like they were far away and the Lord opened the sea. So yeah, we're on the run, but they're nowhere near us. No, they actually got close to the camp of Israel, to the point where the chariot above had to put, the scriptures speak about a pillar of fire to hold back their horses and chariot from actually seizing us again, you know. And that pillar of fire was a laser beam. So you had the chariot above, you know, the Gulf this way, for example, and behind us, the Egyptian army came after us. And of the chariot, out of one end of the chariot came a laser beam to hold back the Egyptian army, and on the other end of the chariot, a great wind came out to open up the sea, which is really the Gulf. Let me see if I can find a precept to validate that. Um, uh, Bear me one moment. Right. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 15. Exodus chapter 15, verse 8. And with the blast of thy nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. Then the enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Okay? And I got to do the history on this. Well, we've done it before, but what I mean is I got to go back to my notes. I believe this was a song, because Miriam led the people in song, you know, and we sang about how the Lord passed us through the sea and delivered us and swallowed up the Egyptians. But regardless, it's in the scriptures. So that when it talks about the nostrils, you know, it's not talking about Yahweh himself and breathing and, you know, nah. It means the chariot. From the chariot, so let's say this is the chariot, from one end came the laser beam to hold back the Egyptians, and from the other end, it started spewing out huge gusts of wind. Okay? It's crazy, man. When you think about it, man, the Lord is cold, man. The Lord of hosts, the Lord of armies, man. So a heavy gust of wind was just continually coming out of the chariot, and that wind was so heavy it blew back the sea to stand on either side, man. You know? Okay? So that's some heavy stuff, man. You know? So the Lord with his nostrils, aka the wind from the chariot, opened up that that gulf, man, that body of water, and we walked through. Okay? There's a reason I mentioned that, but I can't remember, so I'll just continue. This is Matthew 4:10, and it says, Then saith Yahushua unto him, that was it, deals, yeah? Yahushua got a deal, man, but he rejected the deal, you know? Satan said, worship me. All these rappers and that, you know, Satan, and they put it out. They just had the BET Awards, you know. Yeah, that was a ritual, you know, and all kind of things, man. You know, they've all sold out. So basically, Satan himself came to Yahushua to propose a deal to sell out. So Yahushua actually rejected a deal, you know. You know, the apostles tell us that, you know, give us the account. Some man came to the school, you know, and told the heads, you know, they'll offer them money if they change up the doctrine and that, you know. We've been told those accounts. So, it's there we go. You know, these things have happened, man. But then hear what Yahushua said, and I'm getting ready to close. Then said Yahushua unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy power, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. So that was such a heavy battle in the spirit that angels had to come down and comfort Yahushua. You know, comfort him and reassure him and things of that nature, man. So Satan tried it with a couple of angles there: the bread, the pinnacle of the temple, the mountain. You know, signed the deal. You know, what do you call it? Bow down and worship me. You know, you had was it Krypton Conan? These artists over here in the UK, they gave their account. You know, it was a particular deal, and he said the guy's voice changed. Sign the deal. Sign the deal. You know, and he went. All his eyes went wide, and his voice changed. There was a demon on that dude trying to get him to sign that deal. Cause you sign these deals, and you don't know what the fuck you're signing up for, man. You know. So imagine, you know, all kind of apparitions there with the Lord, Satan, you know, fucking with his mind, man. You know, Satan could appear in front of him and the voice coming from behind, and he just disappears and all kind of shit. But Yahushua, he kept it solid. With all of Satan's, this is the point, with all of Satan's attempts, Yahushua was as good as his last move. Not once did he waver, you know. Because if he dropped the ball, Satan would have been in there, you know. So this is an example, the best of examples, Yahushua, man. You know, don't drop the ball. We're as good as our last move. Continually pray. You know, get this one. Contend for the faith. Because we're at the end, man. You know, you got agents being sent to camps, which has been happening. You know, trying to target brothers personally. You know, we actually had that, man. You know, that rat piece of shit, Vocab Malone, came to the camp, you know, with intel. Yeah, someone tipped him off, you know, from inside, you know, the ministry, if you want to put it that way. You know, 8 fucking rat, dirty agents amongst us, yeah. You know, teaming up with the likes of Vocab, you know, passing on over intel and all that shit, yeah. It's crazy, man. Horrible stuff. But then, you know, coming to brothers, oh, I know this, I know that. That's bro, we're living that, man. You can't tell me we're not living that. You got devil agents like Vocab approaching the camp on a name-to-name basis with brothers saying, oh, I've heard about you and I know your character and this and that. Winding down windows, you know, knowing men on a name-to-name basis, you know, trying to come off intimidating. What the fuck? We're actually living these scriptures, man. Okay? So we have to always be on point. because Satan's there looking for any crack. This is Jude 1 and 5. No, 1 and 3. And it says, Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. So you get into the word contend, it means to fight, you know. And the scripture already told us the weapons of our warfare ain't carnal, man. So the fight isn't a physical fight, it's a fight in the spirit, you know. So we're fighting to keep our faith strong. We're fighting to keep a level head, you know. Brothers, you know, catching all kind of hell, you know. We're fighting to, you know, endure your car, which means to make hard, man. Because the Lord is toughening us up. The Lord is making us hard. The Lord is making us strong, resilient, resistant, you know. But you got to want it for yourself. I've got to want it for myself, you know. So contend for the faith. Keep our head up. Stay strong. Keep praying. You know, throw the prayers up, man. Don't sleep on the Hebrew, man. You know. Yeah, you pray, you know, in English or whatever language. You know, those are beautiful. Of course, we're going to do that, you know. But it's always good to throw up prayers in the Hebrew, man. You know, the Lord's Prayer and that, other prayers. Throw them prayers up, man. That's power. The scriptures speak about that. That there is no small difference. Is that in the prologue of Sirach? For the words uttered have not the same power, man. You know, so praying in the Hebrew is important as well. You know, because Satan wants to fuck with brothers' minds, throw particular things along the way to make you question, is this really it? You know, what do you think was happening in the Garden of Gethsemane, man? You know, Satan was messing with the Lord. He was praying to the Father, is there another way? But Satan was trying it, man. But he kept his head strong. You're as good as your last move. I'm as good as my last move, you know. So our last move, you know, is... Would Yahweh Hashem Yahushai co-sign this? You know, if the answer is yes, then cool. If the answer is no, then don't do it. Because that could be an opening for Satan, you know. So we got to make sure our last move is our best move, you know. And just operate like that until Yahweh Shai comes back, man. Lord willing, we keep the faith. That's why the scripture says, he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved, man. You know. So I'm going to close it out there. You know, this is just a quick hit. A few thoughts. A few thoughts I had. And things of that nature, man. Yeah. That's it, man. So, you know, Lord willing, come back with some more shows in the week and that. Rest of, you know, shalom to all you Akim, man. You know, Ka'Allah Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Recha Kodash. Double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, a great millstone who rule well towards his truth. Salutes to all you Akim. Keep pushing, man. Shalom.